I haven't done this in a very long time, so please be kind, please be gentle. If you're going to boo, like, keep that audio low to yourselves. Like that, but I heard that. So I've been told to just say two things before I get waffling, and that is put your phone on silent, unless the ring tune is like banging. And also, unfortunately for me, you are going to be asked to rate this talk afterwards. So please rate it, or don't, just forget about it. That would be great. So thank you for coming to this here talk. The title is, in hindsight, a load of waffle, a load of nonsense. It was the best thing I could come up with to try and describe what I'm going to talk about. And so first of all, I'll introduce myself so you can see who this mad woman on stage is. My name is Claire Sharkey. I've been 10 years plus in the games industry doing marketing and PR. It was in my background. I trained to be an engineer. I wanted to build houses, and now I build dreams. That's me. These are some of my achievements. I've worked on at least 30 plus games by now. I have some awards and nominations. I've been on panels. That may seem like it's there as a humble brag, and it is, but it's also just to let you know a little bit about why this person is up here, seemingly expert in marketing and everything. So what is the talk actually about? So you're going to be, or you already have been, at a lot of talks today and for the rest of this week, and they're going to be covering marketing. They're going to be looking at, you know, special areas of marketing. They're going to be extrapolating data. There's going to be great talks here. My aim is not to replicate that or to challenge that. My aim is thinking about it. You are a game dev, or you're a new marketeer, or even like you're in the game for a while. There's so much noise out there. There's so many things you could do. There's so many things you shouldn't do. It's to cut through the noise and to try and extrapolate things that you just want to hit the ground running. What is it you're going to do? What is it I can do? I have limited resources. I have a small budget. Even if you have a massive budget, what is it that I should be doing? What should I be looking out for if I just can't take the noise and I just want to crack on with it? Now, I'll preface this by saying that my expertise are more in the PC area and then console. So there's nothing here for mobile. So I'm so sorry about that. But yeah, so that's where I'm mainly focused on. Yeah, so that's me. The next slide doesn't really need to exist, but that's just explaining. It was like going on to explain that I'm obviously not from here. I'm from Ireland. I moved over to England. That's me as a Pokemon Krabby that a friend made for me. Again, this isn't relevant. You didn't pay for this. So the topics at hand that I'm going to be covering are utilizing resources. So again, this is what I'm saying. There's so much noise, so much advice. What's good advice? What's not bad advice, but what's advice that if you see loads of it, if everyone's sending you stuff, what can you actually pack away? Because it's just going to eat up your time. You're going to get nothing from it. Best platypus practices. These are going to be things like what is the best social media to use, all those sort of standard things, and events as well. So hopefully by the end of this, you probably will have known all this here, but if one of you come away with, you know, a thought, that was something I didn't know, that's something useful, I'll feel like I did a good job, and legally you'll have to give me 5 stars. So we'll just crack on and we will hope for the best, really. So another thing I want to say is golden rules of acceptance, awful titles. Most of these slides have terrible titles. There's no guarantees. Anything you do from a marketing and PR point of view, you can do everything right and it still doesn't work. There's loads of reasons for that. It's a very, very saturated, busy market. One of the things I'm going to suggest later on is, you know, stuff like Steam Next Fest is really great to be in, but loads of people are in Steam Next Fest. It gets bigger and bigger every year, and so the noise gets, you know, drowns people out. So it's a busy market. AAA, ABCD, and Indie both can learn from each other. So I've worked predominantly in Indie, and I've worked recently in AAA for a few different companies. And it's very interesting how, I don't know about you, but from the Indie side, you think AAA people have it locked. There's a lot of things that AAA can learn from Indie and vice versa. But no matter what, even though this all sounds very negative, etc., the main thing is that hopefully if you follow some of these tactics, again, that might seem very basic, it will provide some sort of gains. So useful information. So one of the things I think is really interesting, these talks and other talks and blog posts and articles and anything that's shared in like industry Slacks, etc., there's a wealth of information out there. Indie is very good at sharing information compared to, say, AAA. You know, we don't all share documentations, we don't share statistics with each other. But in Indie, I think we've gotten better at that as a sort of community of developers and marketeers. But there's a lot of advice out there that after a while, it's not something that you can take anything from and apply practically. So when you have learning sources, one of the things that I think is important is to have a list of where you should be looking instead of just blindly going, well, where am I going to get, you know, advice? Where am I going to get, you know, knowledge, etc. The first and most important place you can get these sort of like information that'll help you is your own analytics. Now, obviously, if you haven't launched a game yet, there's not much that you can go for in terms of learning your own numbers and extrapolating data from that and seeing how that can be improved on. But if you have a game out, or if you do what some people do, which is they create a game just to launch in order to help the main first game, your own analytics are something that you should always be looking at, always seeing what's happening. And I mean on like almost a day-to-day basis. Asking other developers, like I said, asking other people about how they performed, if they're willing to tell you how their like Steam Next Fest or their launch or their demo went. That is a great wealth of information. Watching company states of plays. These are usually the AAA spaces. For example, Paradox do them. It's a very sort of B2B business sort of thing, as stockholders and shares, etc. But they do it live, they do it for everybody. And those are places that are great to get some information from. How to market games, that's a great blog. There's also similar blogs like that. And then following social trends. Now, again, I'm supposed to condense that and tell you, you know, well, not tell you, but suggest to you what to look out for, what people really sort of push as being great advice, but then sometimes it isn't actually that useful to you. And instead of being a meanie and saying, well, this is good advice and this is bad advice, we're going to categorize them as positive and useful advice versus not so much, but that is for you to determine. So here are a list of really common bits of advice, blog posts with headers that have these titles that I found have always been shared around within the industry. And I've been told, read this, Claire, do all the things in this blog and do it like exactly as they say and we'll have success. And I'm like, all right. And that is rarely the case. So here's good and not so great things. So metrics relating to beats. Somebody has launched their game and they've shared their metrics. They've shared how many wishlists they had, the conversion, what their launch numbers were, etc., etc. Reading those things are great. It's great to see what a benchmark is. It's great to see how people are performing. It's great to see if people are doing well or not well. So that sort of information is always great. Data is great. I'm a big proponent of anecdotal data, but at the end of the day, numbers are a bit more telling. Whenever people tell you what worked, I did this and this, and it led to these results, that's great. Make a good demo. There's a lot of these blog posts and these things, and they're well-intentioned, but there was a trend for a couple of years there where people would say, we had a great success at a Steam event or whatever because we just made a great demo. So you just need to make a great demo. And to me, that is useless advice. How does one make a great demo? How do you define a great demo? Just make a great demo. All right, I'll just get the winning lotto numbers while I'm at it. So that sort of advice isn't great. Sure, they can explain their demo, but what are the chances that their game is exactly the same as yours? What I would say is make sure your demo has certain things. So whenever you're putting a demo out there, have a CTA for a wish list. Whenever somebody finishes the demo, have a survey that pops up at the end and, you know, add a wish list. Content shares and traffic journeys, these are really great. What didn't work? When people share what didn't work, that's great. It's not because then you're going to say, oh, well, now I know what not to do. I think it helps a lot of people, even mentally, to see I did all these things and it didn't work, and the learnings, and then to extrapolate. I use that word a lot. It's a great big word to make me feel fancy. Information that even though it didn't work, it may work again. So when you fail or when somebody fails, there's still a lot of learnings from that. And then the common thing I see now in advice is viral posts on TikTok. So TikTok is very interesting. I am not a super expert in it because I'm old and I hate change. But TikTok is interesting. There's a lot of posts in the past few years where someone will show a video that they have on TikTok, got 1 million views. That's amazing. But TikTok does not, as far as I know, and from meetings with TikTok, no shade to TikTok at all, they don't have a method of tracking user journeys from that post to, say, your Steam store or your wish list, etc. So anecdotally, you put out a post, it was 1 million views, you have. Without that data, without showing the journey from person on TikTok to your store, all it is anecdotal. And right now, TikTok is such a time eater. There's a reason why there are job postings where it's just a TikTok specialist. If you're a small team, I'm not saying don't do any of these things. I'm just saying that you need to prioritize what will work for you. And maybe TikTok will work, but your game has to work with TikTok. You have to be willing to put in the time. You have to have at least 3 to 5 posts a day. You can only have 2 hashtags, so you have to pick which 2 hashtags. This is all advice from TikTok. So now I'm going to ask you guys, what do you think is the #1 social media platform you should focus on when you want to market your game? And I don't know if anyone wants to shout an answer and give me a breather. Go for it. Facebook. Okay, Facebook. Hello. Reddit. Okay, one more. YouTube. So those are all answers. And fair, good job for you. But the actual answer for the top social media platform you should be prioritizing if you're sharing your game, trying to get it out there, is it's kind of a small platform. It's Steam. So your #1 social media platform should be Steam. Steam is a little beast. It's a little gnarly little monster. And the more you feed Steam, the better it is for your game. Steam's algorithmic gears get greased up the more you feed it. Steam is where people will already be and have the shortest user journey. The more you give with engagement leads to increase in reach for your games. The more people on your store page means an increased likelihood of the 3 main things you want. Well, there's 2 main things. You want wish lists and you want sales, but then demo plays. Just make sure the demo is good. So Steam greasing, this is an example. So whenever you're planning social media for your game, Steam should be the first thing you plan. What am I going to do for Steam? And then how am I going to feed other social media platforms towards Steam? And then you can do all your other posts, your funny memes, etc. I love a meme. Here's an example, Deep Rock Galactica, of what I mean by the social media aspect of Steam. It's essentially playing with your store page, and that is through the updates and through the community hub. That is the social media aspect of Steam. I kept going with the greasing theme, and I really wish I could come up with other words. But anyway, carrying on with that. So I'm telling you to grease your Steam gears. I'm telling you to do that. But what should I do? Anything really. Anything at all you're happy to put on Steam that isn't NDA'd or isn't being saved for a beat, put it on Steam. Treat Steam as if you would treat Twitter. And do it often. Do it at least once a week. It's a bit like TikTok. You have to keep churning it and keep greasing it. The goal is basically you prioritize Steam posts as your primary social media, and then all external platforms need to link into that. And that constant rotation will serve your game, it will feed your game, and it will get your game seen across Steam when people are looking at other games and tags. So yeah, just keep feeding Steam, keep it going. And then the content ideas, like I say, it could be anything. Concept art, music, community posts, etc., development updates, showcases, anything at all you want to put on Steam, so long as there's a constant flow of content, that's all good stuff. And if you don't do that, you might, go viral, something might work for you. But if you do this, you will always be on some sort of up. Maybe you'll get 1 wish list. But that's 1 wish list you wouldn't have got if you didn't keep churning this. And the last time I'm going to say it, greasing it up. So then we're going to look at other sort of platforms as well. So some of you mentioned, so first of all, what platform should I be on? Make an account with all platform, and you've got basic SEO ticked off. And then maybe in the future, when you grow, you can dedicate people. The main sort of platforms I think that are important are Discord, Steam, Twitter, and then VODs. VODs are basically using YouTube, using Facebook, anything that has a dynamic video capacity, put it on there. VODs can be Reddit ads, etc. Newsletters are the grumpy cat face. And the reason for that is everyone says, and I used to believe it, that having a newsletter was very, very important. The thing is, people love to say that, and there's not always a consistent correlation, depending on who you are, with that being true. Newsletters can eat up a lot of time. The thing is, if I'm on a newsletter, I will have already seen you somewhere else. How did I get to that newsletter? Did I get to it because you're on Steam? Well, I'm already on Steam, or I've seen something else. So if you had to guillotine certain actions because you're low on bandwidth, etc. These in green are the things I would tell you to focus on or suggest you focus on. And these things, so Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, I've already gotten blacklisted from TikTok for just telling you that it's, you know, not foolproof right now. Instagram and Facebook is just, it's another thing that doesn't have a traffic journey that is as calculable as other sites. So now I'm going to sort of look at everything you do from when you announce your game until you launch the game. Again, this is all very quick fire, and that's on purpose. Like I said, there's other talks here where people will be extracting certain things and giving deep dives. I want you to be able to come here and just get ideas and hopefully apply them and feel like, you know, your time wasn't wasted by me saying anything that just doesn't go anywhere. So I'll take a slug of water and then we'll crack on. So your store page setup is key. Key art and capsule art. Does everyone know what capsule art is on Steam? That's fine. Some people don't know. Some people don't think about capsule art. Capsule art is how people will discover you through being on Steam. So what that looks like, how that displays is super important. Key art, obviously key art is key, but it's really important that you do not stick with one piece of key art. It's also important that key art can look really, really nice. There has to be some correlation between the key art and the game that you're actually selling. There's a lot of games out there that have key art that sort of hones in on certain moods, certain trending moods, like people want to feel cozy, they want to feel hygge. Their key art will represent that in a game. And then, no shade to RPG Maker, it is a basic RPG Maker game. And there's no correlation between the journey people took on and the gameplay that they're experiencing. So key art isn't just about making something pretty with a great font. It's, you have to think about it. It tells people a story, but it also feeds into Steam. Tags, obviously tags, you pick tags that work for your game, but if you're an indie developer, don't bother with the indie tag. Everybody and their mother and their granny is using indie. Indie has now become overused tag, and if you put it on your game, you're going to be drowned out in noise. So if you're an indie developer, don't use an indie tag. It's the worst one to use. Play around with tags as well. You can A/B test tags to your heart's content. Features list. The feature list is obviously at the bottom of Steam. What you have to think about is, do I make that pretty with art headers, or do I make that accessible so whenever somebody from press or an influencer is on that, they can copy and paste it straight away? Scheduled update posts, that's you having Steam planned out from a social media aspect. Clear CTAs. CTAs are your goal for everything. Hope you can't hear my fan. CTAs are so important. They should be slapped on everything. They should be slapped on every update post that you put on Steam. They should be on any of your social media posts. And the CTA is always something like wishlist now or buy now. But they're really important and they make a big difference in traffic and then people fulfilling the CTA question. Demos, again, you know, demos are great for your store. It's another engagement for people. It's another way of getting people in. It's another way of telling your story. And then maintaining the discussion board on Steam. A lot of people don't really think about that. They just think the store page and the updates. But the discussion board is quite important to maintain. Beat lineups. So when I talk about beats, I'm always obviously on about the main strong events where you are publicizing or promoting your game. You should always announce with a booster. If you can, it is a great thing to have a game that is being promoted because it is part of an event, be that a Steam event or, I don't know, one of Jeff Keighley's 25 events with that one woman that's yet to be, you know, hatch from a cocoon to present them. You know, so having a game and just launching it, hopefully it does well, but you will have a significant number uptake in traffic and wish list and sales if you team up with some sort of event that will help support that. One of the main things is, as soon as your game announced, your first goal should be to get 10K wish lists on Steam. Once that happens, Steam gets excited, Steam starts purring, it's really creepy, but it starts churning algorithms within Steam. That word, greasy, it's come back to bite us. But once you hit that, you start appearing in more searches, you start appearing in correlation with other games, etc. It's a great thing. Gameplay shares, like I say, showing what your game actually is will lock people in a lot quicker than static art. And also it will increase the value of what the wish list click is. So what I mean by that is you may get, you know, 10,000 wish lists 6 months out from launch. If you didn't have gameplay, it's very unlikely that you will still have 10K wish lists by launch coming, because those people have just come in from a superficial angle. If you've got gameplay and they were exposed to that and they've stuck with the wish list will probably still be there from launch, and they will turn that into a purchase. Present everything at the highest quality you can. Earlier I said content for Steam, you know, anything and everything, but at the same time, it shouldn't be, I don't know if you know the word CAC, it just shouldn't be CAC. You know, you present yourself how you want people to see you. Plan to adapt, things can change, you need to have those plans already there. And then launch with a discount. It sounds very like bullet pointy, but one of the best ways to secure sales, which are at their most important in the first 48 hours of your game launching, is launch with a discount. Cheeky little 10% didn't hurt anybody. How to maximize these beats. Steam page VODs and live stream looping. If you're doing anything on Steam and you don't have a live stream or any sort of video looping on your store page, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. It greatly increases traffic, it greatly increases reach and engagement. And again, that can be anything. It can be a trailer that you just put out. That can also loop on the store page. It can be videos of you talking, gameplay commentary. But the act of having a VOD or a live stream looping, it does wonders for your numbers. If you're working with influencers, try and see if you can get them to restream. There are many tools for that, so they can still be on Twitch, etc., but their content feeds into your Steam page. And that's through influencer outreach. Press releases. So yeah, I won't go into much to that without sounding like I'm trying to sell myself, but press releases still have a lot of power. They're like the key thing to get your game known globally across all sorts of different little pockets, mainstream pockets, and then pockets that you mightn't have thought about. Social post schedule, directed CTA. Again, CTA, it's so important. And then what that CTA should be, it's always going to be wishlist or buy now. Those are the key ones that you should be having. And then A/B testing. I really recommend A/B testing. It's really important to do that. Don't do it during events, because you've diluted and interfered with getting statistics once an event ends. That could really help you when you learn what happened, what went right, what went wrong. But if you've interfered with that by changing things up in the moment, that can have a sort of negative impact. So I'll crack on. And what do I mean again by booster? So once you have a game and the game is announced, it goes through these phases. There's announcement, there's a gameplay reveal, there's a launch date reveal, and launch. Those are the key beats from a marketing perspective, from a go-to-market plan. And then everything before, during, and after is to sustain the momentum that's come from those beats and to support the next beat that comes after. And it all leads towards the end, which is the launch. And so to give yourself the best chance, as I mentioned, if you have a game that's coming out or you're, you know, a new game, etc., I would really suggest that you try and get involved with an event. And an event that has, you know, an online event especially. These are some examples. I've worked with them. I've had games in these events. Sometimes the numbers haven't been great for wishlists, but sometimes the numbers have been great. And even when they weren't amazing, it was still numbers that people didn't get by not, you know, they wouldn't have got it if they weren't part of it. So the Mixed Next PC Gaming Show, Wholesome Direct is just, yeah, a lovely one. Events. So the next slide or the slide after, it may actually get me blacklisted from some events that I actually enjoy going to. So what I'm going to say, first of all, is I'm going to preface this. Events are great. If you can go to them, go to them. But one of the questions I always get is, Claire, first of all, why are you up there chatting nonsense? Secondly, Claire, what events should I go to? And that's a hard question, because ideally you would go to all of them, because there's always chances. And if you didn't go, what chance did you not meet? Blah, 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 blah. But again, the whole point of this is for me to extract guarantees, or as close to guarantees as anything. So you can go to events, you'll get foot traffic, you'll get feedback from players, it'll feel nice, you'll meet people, you may make contacts. But there is something that makes a big difference when I'm advising people, especially these days, especially with limited budgets. And it's a very complicated, a little sort of criteria and algorithm that I'm going to try my best to explain about how you should choose what event you participate in. And I lied, because the answer, once again, is Steam. It's Steam, 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 Steam. It's very much Steam. If you are going to be in an event, if that event isn't partnered with Steam, then, to be very brutal, it is not worth your time right now if you've limited resources and budget, and if you want to reach people on a global scale. Now, there are some big events that happen even in the UK that have a great consumer-facing appeal, but they don't do anything with Steam, which is silly. I've even said it to them. Well, I've tweeted at them and they don't see anything because my Twitter account's quite low. But I've said to them, you are charging people to be on a show floor, but you're not even trying to get them on a global floor. And that is where all their traffic is going to come from. So earlier I mentioned these events. They're all digital events, but they work with Steam. They're on front page of Steam. And if they weren't on Steam with that sort of placement and that support throughout the duration, the games would not be getting anywhere near the numbers that they get from that partnership. Steam is really important. So yeah, I don't advise anybody right now to do an event unless they really want to go. That's great crack altogether, but you want wish lists. That's all you want. And you want those wish lists to convert into sales. Nothing wrong with wanting money. You can, I've got a dream, I've got an art, I've got a game, but you need to live. Steam should be a priority. It should be how you determine where you put your money and time. Steam partner events, I may have already said this. There's many events of all scales. They, of course, have value in physical attendance, chance meetings, people playing or your game with IRL feedback. But in this current timeline, especially, after COVID, etc., hitting a global market can only be done with Steam. If we're in Ireland, for example, and there's a game event, big shock, first of all, but then if there's an event and you bring your game there and you had loads of people playing it and you had great feedback and a great feeling, that can't be replicated. But then if you go to the numbers, there's not going to be much happening there unless your game went viral or something. But if this event in Ireland had a Steam placement, again, shock, but if it had a front store placement, the difference in traffic, the difference in wish lists, the difference would just be very, very noticeable. So do what's the best for you and put it on Steam. Again, all this is very focused on PC, but Steam is where your game is quite likely to be. Make it the shortest user journey possible for people to find your game and get involved with it. Now then, this is all great. I'm telling you to do all these things. Resources are kind of, tight for different people. Where do I think you would need another human to help you out, as capable as you can be, a creative? It's quite clear that this is made in Canva. I'd be professionally dead if I didn't have Canva. You need a creative. You need people who can make your key art, who can make your ad-based art, who can make your trailers. Those people are amazingly talented people, and maybe you are as well. You have this art skills as well as the development skills. I don't have those skills. I can't offer that, but they are key to any marketing plan. Marketing agency or human, they help with the planning, execution of marketing activities. What they do is take the stress off you to not only do all these sort of things that are on a strategy plan, but to do everything in between and to be looking for other opportunities. Because at the end of the day, if you're a developer, you have enough to do making a game and making sure it's great quality. And then a paid ad specialist, A/B testing for spend and setup. Paid ads, you can just do it yourself. You can put some money behind, etc. But people who know what they're doing and play with this stuff a lot are so vital. And you can get people that are on retainer that'll do it for once-off campaigns. These are the three humans from a marketing point of view, I think, do amazing work, and the sum of their parts all come together to make games really sort of go from to whatever that noise means. Also, I think it's interesting to just note that I'm talking about small budgets and small sort of bandwidth and resources. This can apply if your marketing budget is 30K, 100K, or 500K. I know a really great development company and a really well-known great PR company, because of the development company has said, well, we have 300K in marketing. They're being advised that they should just basically, partake in one of the biggest events that's out there, spend all their money on that. Then they have nothing for the rest of the year. Now, when you participate in these events, remember I said at the start, there are no guarantees at all. So you could be in this amazing event. Jeff's there, always looking like he needs a glass of milk, presenting your game, and you're like, well, this is going to get me loads of wish lists. It might, or it might not. But then when you participated in that event until the moment of launch, there could be drop off, there could be anything at all could go wrong. And you've spent all that money. Again, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying when you're looking for these people to help you, shop around, put it out to tender, basically. Try and get people that understand what you need from them and are happy to push you, but not push if you've made a clear sort of, decision not to spend 500K in one event. And if you're going to say to me, Claire, should I spend 500K in one event? No, absolutely not. Don't do it. It's silly. It's absolutely silly. So this is a quick fire round. These are some things that I thought people might ask. And I thought instead of taking up whole slides and trying to come across as if I'm coherent, I would just sort of spitfire it here. So I just want to say I've worked with some people and they have released games that help them learn in order to then release their proper game. Not everyone can do that. That's a lot of time. They're not just putting out itty-bitty games, they're putting out games of great quality, and that's a lot of time, but that's something that people do. How you spend your budget is entirely dependent. Like I say, I'm advising you on what I have found to be best so far, and that could change at any time. But at the end of the day, this is not, you need to be doing these things. I just firmly believe that they will make a positive difference. A lot of stress comes from lack of communication and roadmap transparency. When I work with devs, one of the things I like to know is, will I be able to see a roadmap for your development? Because I'm not going to be creating beats that don't line up with where your game is actually going to be. It makes it hard for me to do that work. It puts pressure on you because you're like, well, she's going to put me into an event. I don't have a demo ready by then. If I didn't know your timeline, I can't ascertain that properly. So communication, whenever you're marketing or working with marketing people, is really important. Above all, the game quality comes before the beat. There's no point putting out a game because a marketeer or somebody or even yourself thought this is a great opportunity. I need to be in this event. If I'm not in this event, if I'm not launching in coordination with this event, I'm going to lose numbers. If you launch with a bad game, the numbers are going to be in minus. Your Steam page is going to be underwhelmingly negative. I think that's the one. So you should never be pressured to put out your baby, your product, if it's not what you're confident and happy with going out into the world. Don't waste time trying to force viral posts. You can't force virality. That sounds like a nice name for a novel, but you can't force it. So don't try and compete. There's a lot of different accounts out there, very well-known accounts, and they just go viral. They just did. That is the very basic cavewoman answer. They just went viral. You can't replicate that. Don't waste your time trying to force it. Don't give up on beats and sales if they don't work the first time. Like I say, when you have learnings about how you failed, there is still so much that you did that could have a different, turnout the next time. Steam curators, unimpressed, cat face. So I just don't bother with Steam curators anymore. You'd think that they were good for you. You'd think because they're in Steam, they're greasing the wheels. They're not. They're really just, I don't bother with Steam curators. I get so many emails a day. Usually it's, my name is Mike XX69, etc. I would like 10 keys for your game. And I'd be like, well, I don't even have 10 keys, but also the cheek of you. Steam curators aren't really worth your time. If you have an hour every Friday and there's a bunch of Steam curators and you want to, fine. But when you give the curators, you also have to check that they're sound. And by sound, I mean they're not dodgy, etc. So that's a whole process you have to go through, and they don't do anything really for your game. It's not really worth it. Don't be pressured to follow up advice. If one of you came to me after this talk and was like, I'd like to work with you, first of all, I'd be shocked. This is a mess. But I am very good at my job. But I also always say, you need to shop around. You need to see what works for you budget-wise, etc. Everything should service two main CTAs. Again, I just can't drive that home enough. It's so important. And then another one that'll probably, people be like, you're absolutely mad. Just don't do early access unless you're a big game. If you're Baldur's Gate 3, you can absolutely do an early access because every update can have content, etc. If you're a small indie game that's doing a beautiful narrative story, why in early access? What am I getting from early access until the game fully launches? It's not great for you. Early access is the game's launch. So all your PR, all your marketing has gone into early access. And then you come out of early access and that's the full launch. It's very hard to replicate unless by stroke of virality or luck, something amazing happens, the feed that you're going to get from early access. So if you're going into early access, this is AAA, this is indie, that's your launch, that's your full launch. And when you go into coming out of early access, don't be surprised if you've sort of lost the sort of oomph and the sort of momentum you would have got if you'd have just fully released. Any other nonsense? I think we're all glad that I've stopped waffling. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm happy to take questions, insults, anything really. I'm glad it's done, and I really hope that something there was useful to anybody. Thank you. Oh, all right.
Really great talk.
Thank you for your lies.
Is there any value in finding mid-level to low-level YouTubers and using them as evangelists?
Sorry, using YouTubers?
Yeah, using YouTubers or Twitch streamers for marketing.
I mean, influencer is a whole big, powerful marketing tool for games, for sure. The thing is, you've got influencers that you can just send mass keys out to and hope that they will pick you up. If you need a budget to get the top tier influencers, you need somebody that knows contracts and all that sort of stuff.
Referring more to mid-level stuff, not
mid-level. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, the big guys like
yeah. I'm a big proponent of working consistently with mid-level influencers, even if their numbers aren't big, because everybody at some point was a low tier, that's what they call mid-tier influencer. And I think if you consistently work with somebody who then becomes big, you become somebody who's stuck with that person, who will get the first in with that person. I've worked with some very expensive influencers, and some of them have reaped great rewards for the game. We've got great wish lists. And then I've also worked with ones where it was a bit rubbish. We didn't get anything. But mid-tier people who really put their heart into it, who have a small community that, support them all the time. Yeah, I'm a big fan of mid-tier, and I think they should never be left out. So mid-tier all the way.
Thank you.
Hi there. I really enjoyed the talk. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Could I be cheeky and ask 2 questions?
Listen, all right.
So the first one, you mentioned the Steam discussion boards, and I've sort of found with that the questions tend to be like, oh, I wish level 3 was whatever. So I just wondering if you could talk a little bit about that, whether you mean just be responding or whether you mean do things like proactively on those boards.
So there's an ability on the Steam discussion boards to post something and then pin it. So in terms of activity, that's what you should always be doing. So that could be a guide for your demo, it could be a guide for your game. Whenever you have a beat, that should be posted there, and it should be pinned. So in terms of what you do yourself, that's not reactive, it's as simple as that. But then in terms of everything else, you should always be replying and engaging with them. That greases Steam, but also it's just in general, it's what you should be doing. It's a good PR move. This is completely a random story nobody asked for. I remember being stuck in a Ryanair plane for 3 hours, and the most annoying thing about it, apart from that was that we didn't hear anything from anybody from 3 hours, even if them on the announcement was to say, we don't have news for you. So even if you don't have anything to tell people, letting them know that you've read and you will get back to them, yeah, you should absolutely do that. So you should always maintain that, and that would always, I suppose, fall under a community manager to do that. But otherwise, you should use it as a beat for when you're like pinning posts. That feeds into the algorithm.
Cool. Okay. And then second one is maybe slightly related, but the shots that you were saying about, you know, like posting updates to when you were showing Deep Rock Galactic. Are those the events? Is that the events page that
that's the events and up? So that's where you would put big updates, that's small updates. You know, you go into the background, the back of Steam, and you have different categories. So it's that side of things. So you know, at the bottom of Steam, yeah, that bit there, I could show you the rest of it. But just under where you would click buy now or add wish list, this is how they're promoted. So it's what that area is that they represent. So yeah, it's the update page. Yeah.
Okay. And so for the, sorry, I'll shut up in a minute. So for sort of using Steam as a social media platform, it's to post to events.
That, yeah.
And to the discussion board.
At least once a week, maybe twice or whatever. It's that, and it's amazing what a big difference that does. Yeah.
That's great. Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Just want to leave it on.
Thank you for the talk. That was really nice. Going back to what you were saying about early access, in which situations do you think it works out in favor for the developer? Like one recent example is BattleBit Remastered, which hit 2 million purchases this week. So I think for them, it was clearly a great success, but it's not just that, of course.
Yeah. So like I say, there's always the wild cards. For one. So there's always going to be wild cards. My experience has been the majority, unless they are massive games where from early access onto full launch, there is quality content that updates to maintain interest, there's no point doing it. If your game, say for example, is a 3-hour narrative game, you're not going to put that in early access at all. That would just be cruel. So it works when a game is either big enough on the Baldur's Gate 3 scale, or it will have content that's coming out. You're asking people to pay for an uncompleted product. So from the moment they get that game until it fully launches, you should be able to provide them with something to keep their interest. Obviously, they might have lost the window to get a refund, but it'll make a big difference between word of mouth and them saying, I got this game, it was a bit janky 2 months in, since early access, they've done this and this and this. It's great to see that progression. That spreads around. So if you have the content and are able to show progression of, you know, what the final quality will be, then your game will probably do all okay in early access. But if it's small, there's no point.
Right, thanks.
Hiya, great talk. I really appreciated kind of your candor about quite a lot of it, and
I'm a bit rough, but yeah.
Yeah, and what you've said really rings true with how I see people actually engaging with games. I wanted to ask about Twitter, because I've seen a lot of people talking about, oh, you should be marketing through Twitter. Does any of that really work compared to other platforms? I mean, obviously Steam is the one that you really rate as viable.
Yeah. Again, it's all so dependent. It really is dependent. Twitter is great for sending people to your store page, or if you get lucky and you go viral, you know, something like that. It all really depends. The thing with Twitter is that once you start with Twitter, you have to keep it up. And a lot of people prioritize Twitter, and therefore they've diluted their best content for Twitter. So what they've done is create a tweet as opposed to, you know, something with more meat that would have a better service, and then adapting that for Twitter. So in terms of does Twitter ever work? Yeah, sure, sometimes it does. Paid ads do, but this market is so saturated right now that the lines are becoming very blurred. And with Twitter, how it is, I don't know what the word is, politically or whatever that man's up to with his stupid wee cars, that has had a knock-on effect. So every couple of weeks, I have emergency Twitter meetings, like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Because everything is kind of... So right now, Twitter can't even, like, tell you, it can't even like honestly tell you you should be using us, because it's clear that it's not the case. So yeah.
Cool.
Don't know
Thanks.
how helpful that was, but yeah. I don't know. Is anyone else? There's a lady there.
Hiya, thanks very much for the talk. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you
My
for
question,
enduring.
my question is more of a curiosity thing on what your view is on Kickstarters, because especially for smaller studios, it's great for funding, but then it does take away from your initial wish list and your first day sales. So just wanted to get your
I think
viewpoint on that.
Kickstarters are great. There's something great about, first of all, hitting that goal because you have confidence. A lot of people, the majority of their Kickstarters that I know were because friends supported them. So, you know, it's great if you have a lot of sort of donations that come from people that aren't in your circle. That's a good indicative that when the game goes out there, you know, more people will see it, will enjoy it. Big fan of Kickstarter. Also a big fan of doing whatever is right for you. And what I mean by that in a non-wishy-washy way is that you can have Kickstarter and you can have investors. You can do, I've worked in games where they've done a Kickstarter, but they've also had a publisher. So you've not negated yourself out of other options. But yeah, with Kickstarter, there's a lot of stress. I know that as well. You have to fulfill promises before you even start marketing the game, etc. But I'm a big fan of Kickstarter. There's no reason why it shouldn't work, but you do need backup plans. And I also think that relying on Kickstarter alone isn't great. That's the only thing I'd say. Line up publisher talks, line up investment talks, etc. Have backups for you, unless that Kickstarter becomes Star Citizen and you're a billionaire with no game. That's the ideal, I think, for all of us. But yeah, Kickstarter, yeah, great.
Thank you.
Is that it? Yeah, okay. Thank you, everyone, again, for enduring that. Thank you so much.